am an angry, fluffy squirrel, and I believe in checks and balances. And I'll tell you why. Nothing strikes me in the tail harder than when I hear people say, well, I believe the government should. And I'm like, what government? That's right, no one specifies which government that we're talking about. See, government means a body who governs. Well, that means a lot of things, like individual government means as an individual, I govern my body, hopefully. Some of you don't know how to, but that's your problem. Okay, then you have things like church government, business government, and then when we get into civil, we also have state government, local government, county government. Great things. And why do I believe in these things? Because they question the bigwigs. See, if you eliminate all checks and balances, state government, church government, business government, you have nothing to question the big boss. You see, that's how you get monarchy! Yeah! Monarchy is what found in England. I don't know if you remember, there's one monarch through a little document called the Magna Carta. The king was finally questioned for the first time. It established lower houses and houses of lords. And what this did was it questioned what the big guy did. Now, this wasn't good enough for our founding fathers. Our founding fathers wanted a little bit something better. Some few things happened in between the time of the king and the time of the Revolution. One was Shakespeare's play The Tempest, which showed that one person given too much power would become corrupt. Another thing was the Reformation, which, like Luther, started questioning the church government. And with this came ideas that people could use both governments for good, but had to be self-discipline. But there always needed to be checks and balances. One thing that our government, or our federal government that was early established, noticed the importance of an economy. See, people think, oh, I want to start a civilization. All you need is government. Well, that's funny, but you need income to create the government. So that's the reason why you need business government. And I know a lot of people think, oh, no, business government. That's the reason we need to second guess everything. Business is very important. It takes taxes and it takes tithes to build business and church government. I think it's funny how that statist will go in there and say, hey, it's a good thing we get away from the church government, but then you worship Obama. If you don't believe me, watch this commercial right here.
To be a servant to our president
and all mankind. Because together we can, together we are, and together we will be the change that we seek.
Interesting. Don't tell me people don't worship Obama like he's some sort of savior. But I'm an atheist. No, atheism would mean getting rid of all religion, like government religion, state religion. We know how well that works. Look at Russia today. No, everybody wants to get rid of state government, the 10th Amendment. Well, let me see here. It's a very important thing. Why? Because I've said already, what works in this place doesn't always work in this place. Federal government should be regulating anything. They should be not involved in marriages. They shouldn't be involved in anything. Leave that to churches and family where marriage originates. But people are like, I don't get my tax relief thing. You don't get married because of tax relief. You get married because of love, you stupid people. And that's the reason why marriage needs to stay out of any government's hands. Leave it to local societies, families, and churches. That's where marriage needs to stay. Gosh, come on, people, get a life. Get things out of the federal government's hand. That's the reason why I need checks and balances. Let businesses bring in money. You sit there, look, the churches only want 10% of your time. I think it's interesting that God established a 10% tithe. A lot of people, wow, that's a lot. That's 10% of your income. Why corporate income tax is 35%? Now, amazing. God only wants 10, but the federal government wants 35, and then Canada only wants 15. Guess where the jobs are going? And guess where people might want their government rights from? Well, God only wants 10, I'll put the church in charge. And some societies have done that. That's no problem. One thing, though, our founding fathers wanted more. They wanted the 10th Amendment. They just didn't want the church as a second guess. They wanted business and the economy as well, so they business out of it. They didn't put a lot of regulations on business because they knew that money was important for people to make decisions. They also knew that if federal government had too much power, it would become corrupt. It needed second guessing. Therefore, the 10th Amendment. Therefore, the First Amendment allowing the separation of church and state so much. But what we have today is we have churches being forced to sign a 501(c)(3). That's right, a charitable organization. It's no longer a church. Now, I'm not talking about all you churches. I think it's pretty cool that you're standing up to the government and not signing 501(c)(3). You people deserve to second guess this government. It's not always correct, whether it be federal government or civil government. But you need to be clear, and we need checks and balances. One reason is for controversial issues such as slavery and abortion. No, there's not going to be that much slavery going on with the 10th Amendment. I find it interesting that people use that as an argument. Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and many of our founding fathers did what they could at the very beginning of the constitutional hearings to try to get slavery banned. They did what they could, and it wasn't working. And it took 50 or 60 years to realize that we needed to go to war to get this issue established. It's the same thing with a lot of things, like abortion. Abortion is a very controversial issue. It may have to be decided through war. Who knows? The point is, the 10th Amendment grants us the ability to second guess the government when it's wrong. Other amendments like the First Amendment as well, your freedom of speech, the freedom in the pulpit. My friend, if there's corrupt government, sometimes preachers have to stand up and decide, hey, you're doing wrong. If we believe what most of these people believe by eliminating the churches, there wouldn't be any civil rights. Because I find it funny, Malcolm X, who was a very religious Muslim, and Martin Luther King was a very religious Christian, were both religious people. If you want to talk about racism, if it wasn't for these religious people, the rights movement never would have been around. So you better watch yourself when you want to decide to eliminate any other voices. I want to be second guessed, because if this squirrel gets too much power, there's a good chance that this squirrel is going to be corrupt. And I need the second guessing of churches and business and local governments to second guess what I do. And as much as I hate it, I need it. So that's why I believe in checks and balances. Have a nice day and kiss my fluffy, fluffy, fluffy tail.